Renu Arora, and I'm really excited because a lot of people had questions for Renu about her near-death experience. So I'm opening up the floor today to anybody. Oh, I hear a little echo. Do you hear it?
No.
Okay.
Is it, if it's
I'll
there?
see if I can take that. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's gone. Oh no, I can hear it. Okay, so we
I
have
can hear it
here.
now.
Hello everyone. Kelly, can you hear double?
I can't hear double.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you, Shelly.
Okay.
I'm going to mute my mic. Okay, can you hear me now? Without a echo. Oh no, you can hear the echo. Oh my goodness, I'm not sure. Buffer. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get you guys to post your questions. I'm going to log out and we're both going to log back in on the same link. And we'll see you momentarily, okay? So post your questions for Renu and we'll be right back. Okay, Renu, if you can come out and then come back on the same link, then we'll do the same. You look fabulous today.
Sure. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sure, I'll see you in a second then, sure.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. Okay.
Okay, you guys have been awesome all the time. And I want you to know I'm just having a little technical difficulty today, but I'll figure it out. Okay. 10:10. Okay, good. Oh, it's good now? Can you just hear me? Or do you hear double? That's a lot of I won't be keeping this one. Do you guys have some questions for Renu? Just let me know. Okay, so let's see what we can do here for these settings. Normally it doesn't do this, but it is. How about now? How about now? No? Double sound? What? That's great. Okay. Okay, here comes Renu. Here. And I'm getting her on. And I'm going to add her to the left. There we go. And then we've got a little extra guest here that we need to get rid of. Okay, there we go. So now you're seeing three people here. And I got to get rid of one. And all right. Well, I'm just going to leave it at that for now and try to center myself in the camera. There we go. Oh, just now listening to Dolores Cannon. There's something about the people who suffer. Okay, so today we're going to be asking Renu questions, and I just want to see if anybody has posted any questions yet. Oh, I think I know what's happening. I'm here live on YouTube, and we're hearing it. That's the problem. Boom. Problem solved. It only took 4 minutes. Now, thank you so much, everyone, for your patience with this. And I'm back. Renu, How are you today? Awesome. All right. Can you guys hear Renu now? I can't hear Renu either. Help. All right. Well, listen, you can hear me though, right? Can't hear me? Okay. No. All right. One sec. Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now? One second. Renu, one sec. I'm gonna message you. Renu, thank you for your patience. Could you pop out and back in just for one more moment? All right. So, gonna do this one more time. We're gonna try this, guys and girls. Okay. Somebody had a great question here about it is important to me to understand where does religion fit into all the NDE stories. So that's interesting. And just to confirm, can you hear me? I'm definitely going to have to cut that part out. Okay, you can. Great. So now when Renu comes in, I'm hoping that it will just magically work for her. That's a really good question, by the way, about the religion part. I'd like to answer it. She's coming back in a second. These are the kinds of things that can be daunting, but I think that we can overcome them like every other challenge and ask for the angels. So she's calling. Angels, let it happen. Here we go. And adding her to the left. Perfect. Renu? Oh my gosh, I think we got it. We got some good questions here, by the way.
Brilliant.
Renu, right away. So the first question is about where do you think that NDEs or where do you think religion fits in the NDE? That's question number one. I'm going to give you a choice because there's another one too. And that was from S that said, it's important to me to understand where does religion fit in all of the NDE stories. And the second question is, what form did you take when your heart was cleansed? Ooh, I like that one too. So let's start with the religion one. I'm sure you
Those two are beautiful questions. Sorry.
No, please.
Beautiful questions. Where does religion fit in NDEs? It's such a brilliant question, actually. Okay, so my sense of religion is that the core of all religions is the same. If you go back to the religious books, whether it's the Ramayana or the Quran or the Bible, what they're saying is all exactly the same about sort of how to live in a purified, cleansed, helpful, loving way to aid humanity. That's my sense. And then, of course, it sort of gets clouded a little bit with the stuff around it, which becomes culture and beliefs and all the rest of it. But the core of religions is the same. So my sense is that there are a lot of people who have had, from what I've read, NDEs in different countries, and their NDE fits in with their religious beliefs. So if they're a Muslim, they can have an NDE which fits in terms of the pictures and what they've seen and what they've felt within their belief system. And I think that's really quite beautiful in that sense. Because all religions to me say more or less a very similar thing in terms of how we should live our life, my sense is that it's a very similar thing. Obviously, NDEs, it's a very heightened, a very extreme, almost like a reset. Well, in my case, it was like a reset. But that doesn't mean that we can't get to that space from a religious place, as long as we're using it, I think, to to do good and to use those parameters as parameters within which to lead a life that gives love to both ourselves and to people.
Yes, that is such a good answer. So can I chime in too, guys? I know that it's your NDE, but yes, I agree. And the volume seems low. How about now? Can you hear me now? I'll just keep this here.
Much better.
Okay, great. So I feel like NDEs almost transcend the conversation of religion and introduce the conversation of unity of all being one source and humanity. And I feel like it could be potentially troubling when you have attached yourself in a good way to a belief system that has given you hope and faith. So I think it's important that to understand that most NDE people whom I've spoken to never come back and challenge any religion as much as try to bring the message of hope, love, unity, and that God exists, really. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. So I am born into a Hindu family, and some of the traditions I still observe because it's just part of the joy of being in our family. We've got Diwali coming up in sort of a few days' time, and I really enjoy that. But I do very much class myself as spiritual as opposed to religious because of the experiences I've had sort of over the past 3 years since at the end time of the NDE and since then too. So yeah, I completely agree. They do transcend religions. And actually I feel during my NDE that this might sound a bit strange, but I think this community and our community will absolutely get it and hear it. I feel like my soul grew 25 lifetimes in that space. I really do.
Yes, yes. That is wonderful. So, we do have lots of comments here. And one person said they can't hear Renu, and maybe if you have a microphone around or you can turn up the volume. Thank God we actually got volume now. Thank the angels because they really
Yes.
also came to us. Okay, so I feel like we did answer that one. Also, Charlotte Willis says, "Hello, Sylvia and Renu. I'm watching from the Isle of Wight in the UK." Oh, good. Good. And
Wonderful. Beautiful place.
yes, and James. And then we had that second question. I just want to make sure where it says, Renew, what form did you take when your heart was cleansed? And this is from Lance. So I'm trying to understand it. Were you a sphere or a body? That's it.
Neither. I felt like I was energy, just simply energy. Although I say my heart was taken out of its chest, polished, sparkling, filled up with love and put back in. Although that is in a kind of body, it felt like I was put back into my essence. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I could see a lot, obviously, and I could see myself as white light essence. It felt far, 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 far bigger than a body, far more transcendent, far more vast than, my limited body, as it were, limited in the sense that it's a form, whereas this didn't feel like it had form in that sense at all. And I remember when I sort of months later, I remember feeling to myself, the body feels so limited in comparison to the space that I was in during the NDE, because I felt like I had to squeeze my form back into this body. Squeeze that vastness.
I think, and help me out here, Renu, and also the people watching, I think what's happening from doing these interviews is I'm starting to glean an answer, and that is the issue seems to be more with identity, in the sense where people struggle to imagine themselves as perhaps more than a body, more than a religion, more than one time and space. And I'm not judging that. It's just an observation. And I think as soon as we realize that we're more than this physical body, we're more than one time and space, we're more than one particular religion, but that we're unified together in this whole situation. When you really think about it, we're these beings on a rock spinning in space, at rapid speeds in a universe that we haven't even identified yet, and clinging on to an identity is really the only thing that we've got that keeps us sane, right? So what do you guys think about that? We've got, the Bible says, in a moment and in a twinkling of an eye we shall be changed. This sounds like everybody I've heard's testimony about their near-death experience. What do you have to say about that, Renu?
Yeah, I mean, NDEs are interesting things because that a lot of people, if not potentially most people, I think I can say this with a bit of sort of confidence, and certainly for me personally, when I was having my NDE, there was no time. It was this timelessness, which I, before the NDE, had never experienced. You know, here we experience time as kind of linear, whereas there wasn't a sense of time there. So I felt like I was traveling, you know, in so many directions and had so many experiences, which, you know, in human time would probably only be a minute. Whereas obviously, you know, in that space, or maybe more than a minute, but not very long at all in kind of human terms. Whereas in that space, so much happened. It felt like, you know, lifetimes had gone by, and yet, you know, there's no sense of kind of time in that space. And coming back to this space, I remember kind of, I still do have an altered sense of time, but actually I don't feel like there's a rush anymore in the same way I used to feel, because I don't feel that I'm heading towards an end of my life, whatever, whenever that might be, because I feel much more of this kind of expanded timelessness, which I obviously brought back from the NDE. I don't know whether that answers your question, though.
No, I think that was a great answer. Why Gatavi, pardon me if I don't get your names right. I'm notorious for not getting it right there. But he says, my question is, though, specifically, do you think all religions are from God? And that's kind of, to be honest, it's a controversial question for me to answer. First of all, I can only come from experience, and Renu, if you answer that, we can only come from experience. But you know, it's like this. You have to meet people where they're at. And I mean, in time and space, like, for example, if you would have told people 1,000 years ago to try the internet and to do this live stream, they most likely, and I'm not saying this in jest, would have said that this was the work of the devil, and why would we be doing it? And we could potentially be persecuted for making even a suggestion about that. So this is a very loaded question. You know, even my great-grandma, she thought that record players was the work of the devil. And some of you here might not even remember what a turntable is like. So,
I do.
yeah. So, I mean, do I think I think that religions are inspired by men who connect with God where they're at in their culture and in their belief systems. But ultimately, if you listen to Renu, she died and had her near-death experience, and she had her heart cleansed and put back into her chest, so that all of that, she became new. No religion can do that. That's God. And so I think we can all identify that there's one God. And the proof that we have are these wonderful people that have gone there and come back and testify to this happening. And because there are so many, I mean, I interview people every week, sometimes two. These people are saying the same thing. And scientifically speaking, I'm not a scientist, but I do know that scientists go based on facts. There are anecdotal stories, but when every anecdotal story is giving a similar result, I feel confident that this is true, that NDEs are true, and what you experienced was very real. How about you?
Oh, more than 100%. I mean, to me, the NDE was more real than this life here, kind of, you know, on the physical plane has ever felt since. That was felt much more real in that realm, 100%. Just to kind of clarify, there's never been any proof that I died, although I kind of know I did lose consciousness in that moment. That was really clear, but that was never proven, because by the time the ambulance came, I was back into my body. But
Right.
for me, it was very clear that, I had obviously left the body and, lost my sense of physical form in that moment. Yeah, I agree with you completely, Sylvia, and I think it is a controversial question. I suppose my only contribution would be, like I was saying earlier, that the core of the religions, if you go back to those books, they're all saying very similar things, and that
Yeah.
to me, where the God is,
In
where
our
where
defense, in our defense, this is a Q&A with somebody who has had a near-death experience. It's not a debate on what was first, the chicken or the egg, or whether religion exists. I mean, I'm grateful that religion exists for the sake of humanity so that they can find God in whichever road leads to God. So, did you say that you belong to the Hindu religion? Is that what it was? That you're
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so you have your Hindu, and I was born in the same world, and my parents followed the Roman Catholic religion, or not tightly, but you and I are sitting here talking about the same God. I know nothing about really your religion, only what I've heard hearsay, but I haven't had deep experiences with the Hindu religion. But here you are in front of me, wonderful, filled with love, and a message to share. So again, this is not a debate with is religious real, or which one came first. I think the question is God real?
Ah,
And I think we have the answer.
oh,
Yes, God is real. And what happens
yeah.
to us after we die? By the way, I'm reading your comments. When I look down, I'm reading your comments, and I will definitely address them. Sometimes if I read too many comments, it's distracting for the whole of the reader. So I'll do a reading and then I'll come back to Renu. So the question is there God? And I believe yes. Last night,
Yeah.
Renu, I had a dream that I knocked on the door of an angel, and
Oh,
the angel was so powerful that I had to have my head on the ground. Like I couldn't look up, and I was knocking on the door and I was saying a prayer. And I didn't try this. I didn't ask to do this. I was feeling a little frustrated in the day. And then that night I had a bit of a worry and I did that. So I really do believe that each and every individual here can have their connection with God. And maybe that's the new way, because there is so much communication, like the internet does exist. You and I are able to talk. We're starting to transcend some of the more traditional means of communication. And if something divides people, or let me rephrase that, if something unifies people versus dividing people, I think that's the place to go. If it makes you feel loving and kind and compassionate and caring, connected, then that's the place to go versus looking for what's different. Didn't Oprah say that? We have so many more
ah,
similarities than different.
did she?
Anyways, okay,
Yeah, I completely
please
agree.
ask about reality. Okay. Wow, you really want to know the answer to that, Renu? Tell me about the reality that you were in space and that your heart was cleansed. Tell me about that reality.
Oh, sure, sure. And also, I'd love to ask you at some point in the conversation about if you had any messages from the angel in your dream last night
Yeah,
as
I
well.
felt the healing from the angel, and I feel just so grateful. Every time I talk about them, I just want to cry. But I felt
Mm.
like they were so in touch with me that they knew already. I didn't even have to, before I went to sleep, I didn't have to ask for that. As a matter of fact, my neighbor, a close neighbor of mine, passed away yesterday. And I just loved that guy. He was an older man, but he was very friendly. And I actually prayed to have connection with him. I did not get connection with him, but instead I had an angel that I knocked on. I knocked on the door and an angel answered. Anyhow, this
Mm,
is about you, Renu. Let's get to some questions. Um,
sure.
okay, more religion. Do you think religion? Oh, nope, we're not going to go there. What actually happened during her NDE? That's what Chris Bell wants to know.
Yeah, great. And this ties in with the previous question about the reality too, then, doesn't it? I suppose. So, sure. So, yeah, great answer. Um, So what happened was, at the time of the accident, I was hit by a bus and dragged under its wheel. And at the time of the accident, I was at the time of impact, I felt like there were kind of split realities. One reality was I was underneath the wheel of the bus, and the bus had taken my leg, as it were, lower leg and foot. Also, I felt like I was still standing up because I was actually waving to a friend at the time. So I felt like my body was also still standing up. I literally felt like my body was still on the pavement, my legs were on the floor, and I was still up with my arm in the air waving to my friend. And also at that time, I was beginning to split off, and I floated up very, very high above the bus itself. I saw the red bus. I saw the top of the bus. I saw my body underneath the wheel of the bus, and I began to felt like I entered this other beautiful, godlike, essence-like realm. And I can only describe it like shards of light coming through the window in the morning, when you see the shards of light reflecting and sort of, coming onto the floor, and you see these beautiful kind of, beams of light. The beams of light were beaming at me into my heart from every single direction like a star, and bathing my heart and filling it with love and cleansing it. It was absolutely, I can't actually put words to how beautiful and how it felt. It felt like every time I say it, kind of minimizes it a little bit, because it was such a expansive, love-filled experience, and it felt like it was an essence type of, essential love, essence type of love, as opposed to a human love. It was much more expanded, and it was absolutely beautiful, and it was white. And at that time, I also felt like my heart was taken out of my chest, given a beautiful, beautiful polish, to the point where I could almost see this essence that was sparkling, and I could see it in front of me. And then I felt like it went back into me, which was that my heart going back into me, feeling purified and clean and reset and filled with love. And I also experienced a voice to the right-hand side of me, and it felt like a male voice, but it was a very loving, loving voice. And the voice said, "Love is all there is."
Yes, yes. No, but that's so beautiful. Thank you. Heard every word. We do have a question, but I want to make a comment. In my connection with God, he said you could find me in the beating hearts of all living things. So it's interesting that your heart was cleansed. And I mean, maybe God just like poured himself extra in your heart and just made it explode with love and explode with just goodness. So one person, James, said, do we have a higher self? And he just wants to confirm our prayers and energy messages. Do you believe
Oh,
that God hears us and hears our prayers?
100%. I feel like God hearing my prayers is the reason why I had an accident in the first place, because I was so very disconnected. I was living, for the 2 years prior to the accident, I was living such an unbalanced life. I had very little respect for myself, so I didn't have any boundaries, so I pushed myself, and I was very unwell. I was very sick. I had glandular fever. I pushed myself through working. I was chasing all the wrong things. I was not in a good place, and I was so unwell. I remember thinking to myself, well, a couple of things. I remember praying to God, just praying that, I remember thinking at night, I just want to break. I just need to break. And obviously I did at the time of the accident. And I also remember thinking to myself, if I carry on like this, in 2 years, I'll be dead, because I was really on a path to self-destruct. Obviously not doing anything overt to hurt myself, but by blowing through my boundaries and working every hour and just not being respectful of myself, I was self-destructing in that sense. So I do very much feel like God hears our prayers. And the thing for me is that since the accident, I felt so much more connected to my heart. Like, I feel like I speak so much more, hopefully always, but I try my hardest to speak from here as much as I can now, because to me, this is where God lives and God is. And whenever I do an important thing, I pray and I ask for God to speak through me.
Beautiful.
And so to me, that is where the connection for God is. Before the accident, even though I knew it in my mind and my head, that, or felt like God existed, I didn't have that much of a tangible kind of experience of feeling something higher and having my prayers heard. It was very much from the personality level, my ego. I was very much kind of when I did pray or ask things, I'd be like, can I please have that? And it came from a desperation. It didn't come from a trust. It didn't.
Yes.
Mm.
Coming from a prayer of desperation versus, I think God hears all of our prayers. I think He even knows the prayers that we don't even know that we're asking. And I know that I think He knows what's on our heart before we even think about it. Kat Cannell says, problems in current times, no one's talking about it. Okay, so, and this person has said it 3 times. So I'd like to address this one.
Sure.
By the way, so exciting to see everybody from around the world. I'm very excited about it. So first and foremost, Kat Cannell, problems have existed in every era, in every time. And I'm not suggesting it's not occurring currently, but what is the source of the problem? And I believe that when you dig down deep, what it is fear and disconnection, which is the opposite to God. God is connection and love. So at that very fundamental level, fear and disconnection versus connection and love, there lies the problem. So division is not what we're looking for right now. We're looking for unification. So to point the finger at someone else personally, professionally, religious is, in my opinion, not the answer. That's my opinion. The answer is, where can we find commonality? Where can we find connection? Where can we find love? Where can we find the common ground? And how can we build on that common ground? I'll pass the mic to you, girlfriend.
Oh, thank you, sister. 100% agree with you. 100%. You know, I feel very strongly that, I suppose passionately in my heart, that we, all the problems that exist in our world, the wars and things, we carry here. We all carry them all here in a microcosm, and I feel like our experiences, are mirrored back into the world. So to me, if we can find unity and connect in our own smaller bubble, that will slowly ripple out into the larger, and as you were saying about if we point the finger, that creates more division. It does, and I think that is what, if that is the source of some, if not all, of the kind of the worldly problems, then we're adding to it by pointing the finger. For me, it's around connecting with ourselves and living our highest purpose, so that we can be the change, so that other people can see that within us, because all we have is ourselves and our own and people around us, and all we can do is be and live the change ourselves.
Yeah, I'm just posting these up to acknowledge the people because they're saying some great stuff here. Yeah, I do agree with that. And I also understand that when we are talking about that, and these experiences that the NDEers have transcends religion, I understand that it shakes the foundation for a lot of people, and that's not my intention. I absolutely love people, and I want everybody to be happy and peaceful, but the way to be happy and peaceful, as I've been shown, is to actually look into someone else's eyes and be caring and kind and doing things. And that means all of us. That means that, I don't want to go there, but the things that are happening politically are a reflection of what's happening internally to each of us as individuals. And it's a microcosm and a macrocosm. And all over the world, we would work much better together, even from a logistic standpoint. If we were working on a project and everybody had a different idea and they weren't working in a unified fashion, that would be very difficult to accomplish it. So let's see if we've got everything else. Hello, everyone. God bless, from Yvette. Hello, Yvette. Bob McDonald, do you have advice or experience on how to deepen a connection with our higher self? Yes, go for it. You first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I do. So how do we deepen connection with our higher self? So many things. I mean, some people go to various healers to connect them to their higher selves. I've done that in my life. What helps me are things like meditation, yoga, centering my mind so I can feel a connection with here, with my heart, which is where I feel like the essence lives. Yeah, and also something really practical around make sure there's space in your day to connect. That doesn't sound very profound, and I'm aware of that, but in terms of a kind of a day-to-day practical level, I really feel like it's important for us to, even if we have like 5 minutes, just to breathe and to feel the breath in our body and to feel our diaphragm expand. And because for me, the breath is the connection, but often we forget to breathe, and we don't because we die otherwise, but as in we're not aware of our breathing, and it's not in our conscious awareness. And I feel like if we can, certainly for me, if I can take a few minutes to just be aware of my breathing and feel my breath deepen, and feel my diaphragm expanding, and the breath infusing the whole of my being, that to me helps me to deepen my connection.
Wow, that's great. I have a really good friend, and she says that all the time. She's like, Sylvia, whenever you take a nice deep breath in, you'll feel connected to the source. And I also have a recommendation, and that is definitely stay curious and definitely stay open, but at the same time, okay, I don't know how to put this, but I'm going to put it this. And this is the next question, by the way, Renu. It's from Haley. What does Renu think of incarnation? So here on Earth. So think about that while I'll answer this one. Okay, I'm probably going to remove this after, but I'm just going to give you straight up goods. If your heart is full of upsetness and all of those things, it's very difficult to connect. If you have a lot of opinions, judgments, ideas, and anger, and all those things, it's not God blocking the way. It's you deciding that you don't want to hear the source. Because when we make judgments and do things and try to squeeze and enforce our will onto things, we create blocks in our energetic field. And when we just allow those things to be and move forward, and now, there might be a cascade of questions like, oh, somebody hurt someone. So this is a general term. If you want to connect with God, you have to be an open channel to connect with God. God, the pure source. You need to ask for God, not just like, I want this, I want that, make this happen, make that happen, but God, show me the light. God, show me the way. God, bless me with your spirit. God, send me angels that will help guide me. God, help me make the right decisions. Those are the types of questions that need to be asked. And then when you meet someone, look for God in that person. And when we look for God in that person, we can find God in that person, versus the problem is we're looking somewhere else. And God said that he's in the beating hearts of everybody. So if we could start there, that would be good. Okay, so that was yes, please go ahead.
Can I add to what you've just said?
Yes.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I think if when we look into the hearts into the eyes of people, as you say, look for God. And I think to add to that, I think often, I know this in my own experience before the accident, when we look into the eyes of people, sometimes we can be looking for differences as opposed to commonalities. And I know that if we can shift that balance, things can, really help. And I think another thing for me, I remember this as you were speaking, Sylvia, is that I'm much more mindful now after the accident and after the NDE of what I bring into my space and who I bring into my space, and how much or little I allow, television and news and those kind of things to enter my being. And I'm not saying don't watch the news. I'm not saying that, because that's the personal thing. But for me, I was very aware that some things that I was doing before in terms of my habits were so clouding my vision and my clarity, and my brain felt so clogged. There was no space to connect.
Exactly.
Not to mention some of the messages weren't necessarily love-filled.
Yeah, when I was the CEO of a national company, I rarely found time for me, like that self-care that everybody's talking about. What they're getting at when they say self-care is finding time to commune with God and the source of healing, the source of mending, the source of connecting, the source of love. Again, I'm not suggesting if you're a CEO, you're not going to feel love, or if you're not an actress, you're not going to feel love. It just makes it difficult when your entire agenda in life doesn't leave room for the beautiful things, for sitting underneath a fig tree and praying. Okay, so Haley, why does Renu think we reincarnate on Earth? You can go first, and then I'll go second.
Oh, I'd love to hear your answer. Yes. My sense is we incarnate on Earth, that the soul comes into a body to learn specific lessons. So when I was young, when I was little, I felt much more connected to spirituality and to God than I did as an adult. I feel like it just all got clogged up. And so, I mean, as kids often are, so connected. And I remember being very small, and I still remember I was in my parents' bedroom. I wasn't that small, I think I was 10 actually, in my parents' bedroom. And I remember looking at my mum and saying to my mum, "I chose you, Mum." She went, "What?" I said, "I chose you. I remember choosing you."
Mm-hmm.
And I had this really interesting kind of image of sort of, being in an altered space, another space before I incarnated, and looking at all these people and going, I want them. I want those two people to be my parents, because these are the lessons that I need to learn through my life as a soul, for it to grow through this life. And of course, that obviously meant the accident too, as well.
Yes.
So that's my sense, to grow and to give love and to experience love, because I think that also grows the spirit and grows the soul.
Yeah, you know what I find interesting? So I'm going to go cosmic on y'all here. Coming from America, I'm going to go cosmic on y'all. Okay, so nobody ever asks a planet why it exists when it existed. Nobody ever wonders why, there's a supernova, or the fact that every element in our body comes from the explosion of a star. Nobody, like the iron in my cells is from a star. The iron in the earth is from a star. Planets go, planets are born. There are nebula. There is a cycle that happens, and we are not immune from the cycle. We are part of the cycle of the universe and the movement and the song, and therefore it comes and goes. Now, let's pretend that there was no reincarnation just for a moment, okay? It's not a terrible thing, but you still want to live your best life, right? It's not an excuse to go out on a rampage and do a bunch of naughty things. I mean, we still want to. I think reincarnation, first of all, so many people have come back with... Here's one thing, like you see a child who's 3 years old that knows how to play a piano and they've never played a piano before. How do you justify that? Like child prodigies, or perhaps people who do remember reincarnation. I mean, why do we reincarnate? Obviously to learn, or obviously to experience. I don't think we necessarily have to get hung up on how many times we reincarnated, who we were. Like the first thing that a novice person learning about reincarnation wants to know that they were the Queen of Sheba or the Pharaoh of Egypt. I think the important part is to understand where you're at now. Who are you now? Who are you being now? How helpful and instrumental are you being as a human being? How much are you living your best life right at the moment? How active are you in making choices and decisions to generate, like Renu said, a sphere of love in your atmosphere? How protective are you of the words you hear and say? Because words are powerful and they carry a vibration. So where are you at now? And I think that will preclude any worry about where you were and where you're going. Because if there is reincarnation, then if you're living your best life now and sowing some good harvest, then you're going to reap a great harvest. I think what we really want to know is, or what our real fear is, the unknown. What's going to happen to us? And I think that is the question. Okay, so says, I try to stay connected with God, but it's hard with a broken heart and unanswered prayers. Okay. That came from a point of sincerity, and I understand that. When you think about, let's go here for a moment. When you think about a broken heart, Can I ask you something? S, do you feel it in your heart, or do you feel it? This is an odd question, but do you feel it in your heart, or do you feel it in your stomach when you have that? You know, like where in your body do you feel that? That might be odd to you for me to say that, but when I feel like I have a broken heart, I don't feel it in my heart. I feel it in my stomach.
Yeah.
And my heart feels very powerful and generates, like, I feel like it's a generator of love. I hear it beating. I wish I had the answer to say what can heal a broken heart, but I will say this, having faith in the events that occur in your life, like, what is your broken heart from? What breaks the human heart? The death of a loved one, the pushing away of somebody who you wish would be with you, the problems of the world. What is it that is breaking your heart? Because when you have a more global perspective of your existence in this world, if you can transcend the human condition and understand that you're more than just this body, perhaps it'll bring you more hope and joy to know that you are eternal forever. Do you believe that?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you believe
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
eternal and forever?
Yeah, I do.
Me
In
too.
fact, just going back to what you were saying about the broken heart, you might know it, Sylvia. Is it a Japanese saying or a meme that's been going around for years around when a piece of ceramic, a mug or something, bowl breaks, they fill it with gold. Have you seen that? It's
I've heard that.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Mm-hmm.
you've heard it, yeah. It's beautiful. So that was what was running through my mind and my heart as you were talking about the broken heart, and we've all had and will have our hearts broken through our life. We'll all experience loss. We'll all experience, illness either of ourselves or loved ones. We'll all experience heartbreak, and we all know how gut wrenching and how painful and how it can take us to the edge and back. That can
Mm-hmm.
feel like. I know that from the accident and how traumatic it was. I mean, I did feel like my heart was broken, and I had to deal with the aftermath immediately after the accident before I could even begin to contemplate integrating all the love and the NDE, because that was here in my physical reality as a result of the pain and all that had happened and the injuries. And what I learned, one of the things that I learned and realized was that the more I could open myself up and experience just even a tiny little bit of that pain and open my heart up, open myself up to the heartbreak, which meant that,
Mm-hmm.
I could almost feel like these kind of spaces within my heart, the more I was allowing myself to both grow and to let the love in. And
Mm-hmm.
that could either be from people or it could be from breathing even. Because the more
Mm-hmm.
I did that, the more I felt my body expand and my heart expand, and the breath that I was speaking about earlier, the breath deepen in my body, and that felt also loving in comparison to feeling so tightly wound from this broken heart. And it can easily feel immovable. For me, it felt immovable for a while before
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do that. But the moment I started to do that, I realized how helpful it was to me to let that love in.
Yeah. Let that love in. Okay, so some people have some good things. Normally in the past, I would have seen it as challenging questions, but I'm not going to look at it as challenging. I'm going to look at it as an opportunity to answer those things. So, Gatavi says, how can someone with cerebral palsy learn something? So, let's do this. Let's imagine that we are never going to die. We might die to this lifetime, but that the light within us and the God within us, our spirit, our soul, however you want to call it, is going to live on forever. And we choose to have one experience of either being somebody with a condition or loving someone with a condition, how much compassion and growth that can develop, how that can really help someone to grow in ways perhaps that they need to grow in. So if you wanted to learn long suffering or compassion, that would be a great opportunity to incarnate either as a parent or the actual being and things like that. So if you can kind of transcend just the one lifetime condition, if you could see yourself in the bigger tapestry of experiencing things, I think that would be helpful to have a more universal or global perspective. As far as heartbreaks, I want to go back to that because quite a few people responded to that and sending love about heartbreaks. Okay. So let's talk about that, Renu, because I think we can really shine some light on heartbreaks. Have you ever had your heart broken before? I'm not just talking about romantically, but just in general.
Yes, yes, I have
I know
several times.
If you've had your heart broken about any issue in life, please type the word why in the chat. Okay, I want to see how many people have had heartbreak. I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying I want to know how many people have experienced heartbreak. I think we all have. And for one reason or another, we have experienced, people are typing in the word why. That's so beautiful, you guys. I meant the letter Y. I apologize, but I love you, each and every one of you. David, Denise, Yashella, Haley. Yes. Okay, so we've all had heartache. Why do we have it? Why do we have it, Renu? Generally speaking, it's because we're disconnected and we have fear, or there's a lack of understanding, or fear that we're not eternal.
Yeah, and to learn, I think as well, to learn.
So if we didn't have to learn anything, perhaps we could experience a different, if we were also enlightened. Let's talk about the Buddha for a second, just because this week is a focus on the Buddha. So Buddha said the reason he reached enlightenment was not because there's no suffering, but because he understood and transcended suffering. Same with Jesus Christ. It's not as though Jesus Christ didn't suffer or didn't feel suffering. It's that he knew and had faith in God and God's plan for him. The Buddha knew that the way to be enlightened was to transcend suffering and to bring understanding. His whole life was dedicated to that. Jesus' whole life was dedicated to that. The Indian Hindu gods that came, their goal was to enlighten and help people to become enlightened, from what I understand, in different areas.
Yeah, and I think also that pain and love are two sides of the same coin. We can only, the more we experience pain, the deeper we can love. That's my sense. That really is my sense, that, you know, having suffered greatly, I feel like I can love greater as a result of literally being at the edge and back and having my heart splintered from various experiences through my life.
Yes. So here's something controversial. I think that religion, and a strict kind of religion that says you're going to heaven or hell, and that's it. There's nothing, here or there. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree. I'm just saying that thought process is very helpful to people who need a very strict guideline. For example, if some people thought, okay, I'm just going to be forgiven and nothing's going to happen and God is a forgiving person, they might look at that as a license to do whatever they want, for example. So then there's more enlightened people that understand that there's no stone left unturned, and that is karma, memory, all those other things. So even on this earth plane, there are so many dimensions of existence through the way that we think. That's why I am not telling people that, religion doesn't exist. I think it serves a good purpose for the people who are understanding it. But in reality, when you had your near-death experience, when everybody who I talk to, I hear nothing about religion. I hear God's love. I hear light. I hear love. I feel expansion. I feel renewed energy. I never hear, and in an interview, somebody saying, everybody's got to do this now. Everybody change your mind, belong to this religion or to do that. I don't hear that ever.
I had so much fear before the accident, and that was to do with the fact that I thought, if I do this, I'll be good. I'll go to some place when I die, and if I don't, I won't. And it just permeated my being. And although I always try to do good, obviously, I know that those messages, which are great, as you say, they're really helpful. And I know so many people in my life who identify as being religious, and they are wonderful, wonderful, love-filled souls. And yet, for me personally, I felt myself racked with this fear. And I remember thinking to myself as a child, I remember stubbing my toe on a door, And I remember sort of thinking, oh, is that because I've done something wrong yesterday? Did I hit my brother? Was I not a good girl, as a small
Yeah.
child?
Isn't that
And
funny how you know that when you're a kid? You just know it, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's true. But what's interesting is that after the NDE and the accident, I feel like that fear has gone in many ways. I don't feel like I need to live my life through fear. I need to live my life through love. The things I do may not shift, but it's coming from a different place.
Yeah.
It's coming from a freedom as opposed to a fear.
Yeah. Let's talk about heartbreak just one last time because Colleen
Sure.
said something about heartbreak. I guess I got my heart broken to the point of shattering because. So let's shed a little light on heartbreak and then we'll move on to the next topic. So, heartbreak. How did I get over my heartbreak? How did you get over your heartbreak? Do you think that God cleansing your heart and putting it back into your chest helped you to overcome heartbreak?
For sure. Absolutely. Completely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right. And for me too, I think that I was brought to my knees in terms of um, life and it's the things that can occur in life. And my experience was actually what led me here. So I'm so grateful that it led me to this point because I feel so joyous and so happy. However, there was a time when I felt forsaken and I did question. So I never judging anybody who's questioning it. I did question, but the questioning got me the answer and it started me digging for the truth. Um, the truth seeker. So of course, I went to the first place I knew, and that was Jesus Christ because I was Roman Catholic. And I thought, this is how little information I had, is I thought that Jesus was Italian. Okay, so I'm this little kid that's heard about this, and I'm thinking, because Roman, right? Roman Catholic. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to go to that first place, but it starts you on the journey of self realization and self actualization. So if you find yourself having a heartbreak right now, and it's causing you to dig for the truth or to show up to this show, to ask questions, I hope that your healing process and your connection with God comes rapidly. But from my personal experience, I think that you could find God by acting and being like the source, meaning loving. I tell you what, you're going to become a magnet for love if you start dispensing love. If you can put your problems and heartbreak aside for at least 1 minute to 2 minutes a day and say, you know, do good things to people who are living on earth and pray for those who are living on earth and for yourself. That's a great start.
Yeah, it is. That's so beautiful. And I think as well, if we, I know I've spoken about this earlier, but if to what you were saying about putting your heartbreak aside for 1 or 2 minutes a day, I know that can be very challenging if our heart is shattered, and as you say, Sylvia, you were brought to your knees. That's a really tough space to be in. And yet, if we can allow ourselves for even just a moment, 2 minutes, as you say, to shift our focus a little bit and breathe, the breath isn't heartbroken. And to me, that's where we can begin to see that actually we're whole, even though we feel like we're in pieces. Because there are certain aspects of our body and our mind that aren't heartbroken, and just kind of allowing ourselves to continue to breathe and to continue to feel that can very gradually and incrementally begin to shift that space and allow us to move into the pain. Somebody actually, I have Alexander technique. I don't know whether you're
Oh, yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with
You
it.
talked about that, the Alexander.
Oh, yeah, I love
I
it.
mean,
I
I don't
really
know
love
it,
it.
but please tell us.
Well, I don't know 100% where it comes from, but I know that Alexander, who founded the technique, was an actor years ago. I think he was in Germany, and he had lost his voice during a stage show, and he developed this technique whereby it looks at the relationship between the head and the neck, and then eventually the body. And so it's actually quite spiritual because it talks about how we breathe and where we place our attention within our neck and within our head, and how we soften our eyes, and it's really quite beautiful. It's really beautiful. And after the accident, my Alexander Technique teacher came to my home, because he comes to my home to help me. And he said to me, Renu, with massive experiences like what you've been through, they don't integrate into you. You will move into it. And I will liken that to heartbreak and anything that knocks us kind of off kilter or feels like we've kind of been knocked off center, anything at all, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we because these things can feel so overwhelming and all encompassing, and they are in the moment, we need to allow ourselves to move into them, because that's where the growth will be. We'll almost become them, and we will then allow them to speak through us.
Yeah. So somebody said, I'm sorry, it just moves really quick, so I can't remember. It's actually Ani Campira said, if God exists or God listens to our prayers, then why does he never answer? Okay, I got to speak to that. With absolute love, are you breathing right now? Did the sun come up this morning? Is there a sky available to us? It's about the gratitude and the things, who you believe God is. I believe God allows me to wake up every new morning renewed and gives me the opportunity to self-actualize. And when I see the stars in the sky, and when I see the order that's around me, and sometimes the disorder too, when I have a loving gaze from my husband, gives me a hug and says good morning, when I look at my dog and he's so happy to see me in the morning, when I talk to Renu and I see the love in her eyes and the cooperation of her coming and on her own time to share the love with you, that's all God. Like, I'm not sure who you think God is, but that is God. God is the love that's in the people, in the beating hearts. It's in the compassion. It's in the charity. It's in the kindness. It's in the friendship. It's in the, like, this is all for you. And you just have to be prepared to accept it. When you breathe air and you're alive, that's a gift to you. When you have that opportunity, that's God giving you the opportunity. When you have a smile from a person, that's God working through a person to smile. And that's where God is, and that's how God is answering your prayers. I'm not sure, and this is nothing towards you, okay? But God is not going to come with a helicopter and drop me off a big mansion and a whole bunch of stuff. And he might, if I ask hard enough, that's possible in the realm of all possibilities. But I'm not looking for that God. I'm looking for that God to touch my heart, that opens my eyes, that, I mean, really think about it. You could live just about with anything else except for some food, water, and love. And even, I think love, even if you had food and water, it still wouldn't be enough, but the love is king, right? So to say that God is not answering our prayers, I think it would be more effective to say we're not taking things out of our ears to hear God answering our prayers. Like, it's audacious of us to say that God is not answering our prayers when the sun comes up and when we have someone to love and when we have the freedom to self-actualize. Sorry, went off on a tangent there, Renu. Help me out here. Throw me a rope.
I love it. Love it. I love what you said. Exactly. I completely agree with you. My response to that would be, how do we know God's not answering? What if God's been answering all this time, but we just haven't seen it? Before the accident.
Yes.
No, go.
No, yes, absolutely. I always thought that prior to 1 year ago, so this is pretty recent, okay, being honest with you, I thought that God was outside of myself. Prior to a year ago, I thought that God was something that I had to reach to attain. Prior to a year ago, I thought that God was separate and I had to have an intermediary, meaning, and I don't want to upset anyone. I thought I couldn't have a direct line to God. But when God spoke to me in earnest, when I was crying and praying and God spoke to me and I heard it, I was like, what? You're just like, can talk to me like that? When Renu had her heart pulled out in her NDE, cleansed and put back, she will never, ever be the same. When you actually connect with God, you will never be the same. And you understand that it's our responsibility and duty to live our best life. And you feel like you want to be really good because you know God is there and he's listening and watching and being there all the time. But gratitude, very important. Renu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes. Before the accident and the NDE, I was asking for all sorts of things that I felt weren't coming, and I would get myself into such an anxiety space of going, why isn't it coming? Why are my prayers not being answered? I've asked for X, Y, and Z, and I haven't got X, Y, and Z. Instead, I've got A, B, and C, and A, B, and C are not very attractive in comparison to what I asked for. And I can see now, looking back with so much more perspective and gratitude and appreciation, that they were exactly what I asked for, just in a different form.
Yeah, so we'll wrap this up with a conversation about energy. So I know that you're a very intelligent woman. I can see it in your eyes. I know from your background, and I can just sense it from you. And the reason I sense it is because I'm open to your energy. I know who you are, Renu, because I can feel it. Um,
Thank you.
when you start to become more in touch with the finer energies, you recognize you start to resonate with people more, and you become gravitated towards certain people, and you pull in certain people. So the first thing to do to see your status quo, if you want a report card, just look around you and inside of you, and however you're feeling is what's being generated. So if that's good, keep on keeping on. If it's not ideal, start generating good. And energy is real. Let me give you an example. You can walk into a room with an amazing music, sounds of music, and you will be uplifted by this music. And you can walk into another room where the music is very somber, very loud, or very down, or very dramatic, and it will affect you. So, Renu, let's talk about energy and how people can quicken their energy to transmute the situation from bad to good.
Oh, what a lovely question. Can I just go back to what you were
Yep.
saying earlier about the song, just to very quickly add to that?
Yes.
Yes. I think also for me, it's even something as simple as we all know what it's like to go into a room and just to feel a bit uncomfortable, and we come out and we go, my gut instinct told me that something was off. I don't know what it is, but it was a gut instinct. That's also energy. We're porous beings, so we feel other people's energies, and our nervous system will align to the nervous systems of people around us, and that is how we are. We are porous. So I believe personally, certainly for my own life, that it's really important for me to surround myself with people and beings who have a similar vibration, so that it just helps to raise the vibration just generally in that sense.
Right.
But to get to your question, can you repeat it, Sophia? Because I can't remember what it was.
Oh, about energy. Like, what's your take on energy? I'm just going to do some monitoring here.
Sure.
It's like a okay, there we go. Done. Thank you. Okay, so back to our conversation, just to clear that up. One moment. There we go. I had to just put somebody in a timeout. Okay. School, right? I want to wrap up the conversation with energy, and I want to help people understand how energy affects the people around you and affects you, and how I suppose I didn't want to say this, but the power of manifestation. How can we manifest more God in our life? How can we manifest more good in our life? How can we manifest more abundance in our life? How can we generate energy? I specifically am asking you because your heart that God took out and purified, polished, as you say, and put back in, is the largest source of electromagnetic energy, your magnetic field in your body. It's the power generator. And I also feel that it could generate good things in our lives when, different religions talk about the pure of heart and things like that. And without getting into any specific religion, how can we tap into the power of our heart and generate powerful experiences within ourselves, powerful positive experiences within ourselves and for others?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you. I mean, when we watch a beautiful film, or as you say, listen to a beautiful song, and we say it really touched my heart, that's our heart experiencing something very beautiful that we feel very tangibly in our heart. So for me, I mean, there are so many facets to this. For me, it's around, like I was saying earlier, what I allow into my space and the kind of things in terms of media, social media, friends, whatever it is I'm around, just the kind of messages I allow into my space, and just be mindful of being sort of a gatekeeper for those things, so that I can keep my heart connected. Also, because I've had this connection, I'm very I'm very grateful for it, and of course I want to protect it. So I do make sure that I keep, although obviously like yourself, we're all busy, we all have responsibilities and bills to pay. Within that, I need to make sure that I don't pad my day too much on either side with too many things, so that I can allow myself to do everything I'm doing in a mindful, authentic, heartful way. And
Beautiful.
I think it's also,
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. You were on a good flow there. I was just agreeing.
yes, it's okay. Thank you. I was just going to, oh, sorry. More questions?
No, they're just this is a nice way to put it. Everyone's just so beautiful here. I just want to mention a few names. Bev Hunter, Colleen, Sherry, again from Colleen, we have Erland, I believe it's pronounced Erland, and Lance, and so many people writing so many beautiful things. So I just wanted to thank you all for writing that. Okay, I want to kind of wrap it up now. We've gone for an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh,
What I'd like to
wow.
say, yeah, it went by quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think the quickest way to God is through what the message, I'm just saying from experience, by the way. Whichever way you choose, audience, and Renew is yours. But I think the quickest way to God, and it kind of ties in here, absolutely ties in with Renew's NDE, near death experience, is it wasn't a coincidence that he took her heart, polished it, and put it back. That's not a coincidence. It could have been her foot, it could have been her hand, it could have been her brain, but it was her heart. And there's a very specific reason in it, because symbolically and in reality, that is the place where God exists. So if you want to connect more with God, I would think that we connect with each other more loving. And I want to say thank you to the person who said, send loving prayers to the troll. Yeah, let's all send loving prayers. But even the word troll's a little bit. However, if you want to find God, find it through your prayer, find it through other people. Let's find it through our hearts. And I want to thank you, Renu. We're finding God in your heart. Thank you so much for generously offering your time today to come to bring enlightenment and hope and joy to the hearts of people. Hopefully this conversation was enjoyable for you all, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you want to know more about Renu, she has a podcast that she's coming out with. So now you can go and listen. If you haven't watched the video yet, watch the video and listen to the teaser on her podcast. The podcast version of her story is very delightful. It's told from a storyteller's perspective, and I found myself engrossed in it immediately because of the tone of your voice and the storytelling. And if you watch your video, you can learn more about the story. And what I'm doing here is I'm coming to you live every time a guest says, yes, I'd love to go with you live after we've done a video for a Q&A. It's absolutely for you, and it's a great time to commune with you guys. You're beautiful. I appreciate you. You're awesome. Thanks for your great questions today and for your support. So long for now.